Hey guys, welcome back to the Genesis Off-Road podcast, where we're answering your questions and giving you some deeper answers than what we're usually able to provide just over email or in the comment sections on our YouTube videos. And we'll give you an inside look at what's going on here around the office and what we're working on, some new product development news, that sort of thing. But if you want to get your question answered here on our show, Brad is here to tell you how to do that.
That's the only reason I'm here. It's just to tell you. Just to tell you how
you're giving the Q's and I'm bringing the A's.
That's right. No, comment down below is the easiest way. I look through those comments every week. Or email us at info@genesisoffroad.com. We see those emails come in and we're constantly monitoring our emails, as well as giving us a phone call. Mike would be happy to answer your question on the call, and then he'll pass that question along so we can answer it here on the show as well.
All right, cool. So what you got for us today?
All right, so I was going to do things a little bit different today, if you're okay with that.
Okay.
So as I kind of scour the internet and I just kind of, look at what people are saying, there's a couple things that I wanted us to address. So I'm going to play devil's advocate and be a customer online, or a potential customer, maybe online, and then let you kind of answer how you will.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so the first one, your dual battery systems look great. Looks like an awesome product, but it's really expensive. Is it really worth the investment?
Well, I think the answer to that always is it depends, right? It depends on what's valuable to you. So is it better for you to end up with a dead battery and just have to call a tow truck or ask a stranger at the store for some jumper cables to jumpstart yourself? Or is it more valuable to be able to hit a button and jumpstart your vehicle, or have the G screen inside and press a button and jumpstart yourself without getting out of your vehicle? What are you doing with your vehicle? Even if you're not running tons of electrical accessories, you don't have to be an overlander with, the whole rear end built out like an RV to benefit from a dual battery system. Okay. Even if you're just driving your vehicle as a grocery getter, all batteries eventually die, right? So with our dual battery system in there, that's one of the main things that we always talk about is we're trying to protect your cranking battery from getting drained by your accessories, but it's also, that second battery is also there as a backup. So all batteries eventually die. So when that cranking battery eventually dies, we know what's going to happen. You've got a backup battery there to help you out, so you don't have to get jumper cables or a tow truck. So is that worth it to you? I don't know. That's up to you. We've had some people say on the price point issue, everything's expensive, right? We get it. I get it. I own Jeeps. I've got 3 Jeeps of my own right now. I like to modify them. I like to upgrade them. Stuff's expensive for me too. It seems like everything you're shopping for is another $1,000 you drop, right? I get it. Everything is expensive with inflation over the past 5 years. 5 years ago, our dual battery kits were around the $529 mark. And then by 2022, when we upgraded to the Gen 3 system, we've got more heavy duty components in there. We've got larger bus bars. We've got a nicer boost switch. It's a lot nicer features. But also, again, with the inflation thing, steel has gone way up. Copper will hurt your feelings. Buying copper wire right now, it'll about hurt your feelings. So the battery cables are a lot more expensive than they were 5-10 years ago, that sort of thing. So all that contributes to the price. But all that being said, we've had customers over the years that say, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. I could put this together myself a lot cheaper than that. Why has that got to be that expensive? And I always tell people, look, if you've got the time and the tools and the skills to assemble a dual battery system, man, that's fantastic, right? Good for you. That's great for you. But most people can't do that. But even if you want to do it yourself, we sell a DIY kit that'll give you the steel tray to put your 2 batteries into, and then a bare top lid that holds the batteries down. And you can add your own electronics and your own wiring if you want to do all that yourself. But we've had people try that over the years, numerous times. And they usually come back to us a couple weeks later and they go, yeah, I should have just bought your kit. You end up spending more money by trying to cobble something together and it looks like a spaghetti buffet of wires under the hood. So, the value that we're bringing to people is that we have the most complete and easiest to install kit on the market. So if that is beneficial to you, then that's our value proposition.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good answer. And you could also talk to how all of our stuff is made here in America.
Yeah.
Right. We don't outsource to another country, so we're not paying a lot of those tariffs and stuff that a lot of companies are out there paying.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we could probably shave some cost off of our dual battery systems. If I had the steel battery trays made in China, I could probably make the tray for at least half, probably less than that, of what we're paying to manufacture our steel parts here in Mississippi. But I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I want, made in America is very important to me. It always has been. All of our components, our wires use American copper. The wire lugs are cast here in the USA. The plastic cover that goes over the Gen 3 power hub, that plastic piece is manufactured on the same injection molding machines that they use to make the engine covers on the JL right here in America. So our plastic components, the circuit board inside of the G-Screen monitoring system is made here in the USA. As much as we can possibly do, we support American manufacturing. So and look, it just costs more. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a value in that, right? It costs more, but if that means a lot to you, like it does to us, then it's worth it.
Yeah, I hope it's worth it. I think it's worth it to our customers. The type of people that want to buy our products are looking for the very best quality of every single component. They want the best stuff that they can put on their vehicle. And our type of customers love American manufacturing. If you just want cheap stuff, go find you some cheap stuff. That's great. No judgment, but that's just not what we offer. So we're trying to offer the top quality, not the lowest price.
All right, so let's go to the second one. Is a Genesis dual battery system overkill versus just like a portable power station? For like weekend things, if I'm just going out on the weekend.
Okay. Let's talk about the term overkill then. Okay, so what do we mean by overkill? Is it more than what's needed? Well, I think that depends on your situation, right? I keep going back to the answer to these questions is it depends, right? So I think you have to expand on it a little bit. But yeah, I've heard people say that. We heard some people talk about that at Overland Expo. Is this overkill? Is this more than what I need for my vehicle? I just run a little portable power box. But again, it comes down to what are you trying to do? If you're trying to power accessories that are mounted onto your vehicle, like your winch, you got lights up on the roof, you got rock lights maybe, you want a dedicated power outlet in the back to run the fridge. You can get a 12-volt socket in one of the little portable power stations and plug your fridge into that. But most of those things, most of those little portable boxes, you have to take it out of the vehicle and plug it into the garage and remember to charge the thing up. So when you unplug it from the wall in the garage and throw it in the back of your vehicle, you're just using that capacity as you're on your road trip, wherever you're going, right? And there's some of them. Bluetti has a optional charger. I think they call it their Charger One or something like that. That is basically a battery charger that you can run back up to your cranking battery to power the little external charger box, and then you plug that into your portable power station. So it's an extra thing that you have to buy and set in the back of the vehicle in order to charge the portable battery system, right? So the advantages of that, though, is the little portable station. You can move it from vehicle to vehicle. You can take it with you out to the beach to keep your phone charged. You can take it to your tent to, run your electric heating blanket if you're ground tent camping, that kind of thing, right? So you get the portability, but with the dual battery system under the hood, with our systems, it's really meant for stuff that's permanently mounted to the vehicle. You can't run a winch off of a little portable power station, right? You're just not going to do it.
Please don't try.
Don't do that. You're not going to jumpstart the vehicle off of a little portable power station, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just different use cases. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it too, because we do hear that, but we also talk about it from the standpoint of like, we're building a foundation. You've used that analogy of building a house. Dual battery systems can be the foundation of your vehicle. And then when you're ready to add lights and you just keep adding them, or you're ready to add an outlet in the back for that dedicated outlet for your fridge or for whatever you're wanting back there, you're ready for that.
Yeah.
You have the system already installed, and you're ready to upgrade from there.
Yeah, I like the analogy of the foundation of a house. You don't start building your walls until you've got a foundation to put the walls on, right? But we see so many times people will start adding all the cool, fun stuff, the lights and the camping gear and all this stuff, and they run it all to their cranking battery, and they just make a mess under the hood. Running all the ring terminals right onto the battery post clamps, and it just gets to be a mess really quickly. And you're really at risk of draining that cranking battery, right? So just like you wouldn't build a house without a foundation first, I always tell people, start with your foundation of your electrical system. Put a dual battery system in there from the beginning so that you got your cranking battery protected. Keep that thing protected. And then add as much stuff as you want to onto the bus bars so that all your aftermarket stuff runs off that second battery and doesn't drain down your cranking battery.
Yeah. I mean, it makes too much sense to me, but I'm a little bit biased. But there you go. That's the answer.
Well, I think a lot of people, another thing we hear on that is we hear from people that say, oh man, I love your dual battery system, but I'm going to wait until my cranking battery dies. I just bought a battery, or my vehicle is new and I don't want to get rid of this, this good battery that's in there. I'll just wait till that battery goes out and then I'll put your system in there. And I always say, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, because the chance of them, like, say they're, in the Walmart parking lot and their car's not going to crank because now their battery died. They're not going to call us up and say, hey, I'm ready for that dual battery system right now.
Yeah. You're stuck somewhere. You're out somewhere, and it's probably not the AutoZone parking lot.
Right.
You're out there somewhere with a dead cranking battery and you can't start the engine. And anybody who's been driving for more than 5 minutes has had a dead battery. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
It's never convenient. It's never fun to have to deal with it. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So don't wait for your battery to die before you put a dual battery system in there. Go ahead and get that thing in there so you got the benefit of it, right? Yeah. You don't call us up and say, hey, I'm ready for that dual battery kit. Can you like expedite? Can you get that to me like within 30 minutes? No.
Unless if you live here, then no.
If you live in Olive Branch, maybe we'll help you out. But
yeah. No, that's good. And then, so the last question that I had, and I don't know how many times I was asked this at Overland, which is why it was fresh on my mind, but people always want to know, all right, so if I have your system in a real world situation, such as I'm, overlanding or off-roading, how much usable power does our system provide?
For running stuff, they're asking, how long can I run my fridge off of this?
Exactly.
That sort of thing, right?
Yep. How long is it going to power my rig?
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, because that's a great question. This gets into a little bit of the technicalities of how the batteries work. And again, we did the detailed video on the different types of batteries, the flooded lead acid, AGM, and lithium.
Right.
So this answer is gonna differ a little bit based on what type of battery you got in there. Okay, let's just assume that we're talking about AGM batteries.
Yeah, since that's the most common with our.
That's the most common. Let's talk about AGM batteries. Okay, so with AGM batteries, you remember from that detailed video we did about the batteries, that with AGM batteries, as your capacity declines, your voltage declines as well. Okay, so a fully charged AGM battery is about 12.8 volts. And then as you use the capacity, the voltage will start to drop. And a fully depleted, quote, dead, 100% discharged AGM battery is 10.5 volts. Okay, at 10.5, it's considered dead. Okay, now that's called 100% depth of discharge. You've drained it all the way down. You can still suck power out of an AGM battery below 10.5, but you start running a risk of physically damaging that battery internally. So you don't want to run an AGM below 10.5. Okay. But the thing you want to remember is, as that voltage tapers off, well, your accessories need a certain voltage range, right? A lot of refrigerators, let's use refrigerators as that's probably the most common example. Right. A lot of people are wanting to run our dual battery kit to run a fridge. So that's an easy example. So a lot of fridges will have a setting on there, for when the fridge cuts off, what voltage level. Some of them say high, medium, low. Some of them will have a specific voltage number. But let's say you set the fridge to low. which is, I think on the Dometics is something like 11.8 or something like that, a little under 12 volts. So let's say, you go from 12.8 to 11.8. Well, that's approximately 50% depth of discharge. Not exactly. There's a whole bunch of technicalities behind that. But 11.7, 11.8 is about 50% discharged. And then your fridge is going to cut off because you don't have enough voltage to run it. Okay, so all that to say is that you don't want to drain down let's say it this way. The lower you drain an AGM battery, the fewer times you can do it. There's a direct correlation between how low you drain the battery and the battery's lifespan, okay? Because any battery, I don't care what brand it is, has a finite amount of energy that battery can produce over its lifetime, okay? So the battery can produce this much power, okay? If you drain the battery down really low and then charge it all the way back up, and you do that every single day, well, that battery's not going to last very long, right? You might get a year and a half out of it. But if you just use the battery for cranking the engine, you just use a little bit of power and then top it back off, that battery might last you 10 or 12 years. So as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to drain AGM batteries more than about 50% depth of discharge and then recharge it back up. You can do it. It's okay to do it. But the more you drain it down below that point, the shorter the lifespan is going to be. That's all. A lot of people get that kind of twisted and confused about that. You can't drain a battery past 50%. You only get 50% capacity. Well, it's not that you can't. It's just that you get fewer cycles out of it. Okay? You're going to get more cycles, more lifespan by draining it 50% and charging it back up than you would at draining it 80% and charging it back up, right? You're going to use its lifetime capacity of that battery quicker. That's all. So all that to say, how do you calculate how long your fridge is going to last? Okay. That's kind of a long way around to getting to the point of how long can I run my accessories? Okay. What you want to do is look at how much power your accessory consumes. If we're talking about a fridge, it uses a burst of energy to get the compressor started. So let's just kind of ignore that because it only lasts for about a second, right? It'll use, 5, 8, 10 amps to get the compressor started. And once the compressor is running, most fridges use less than 1 amp to keep the fridge running, which is remarkable, incredibly efficient. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's just say for easy math, your fridge runs at 1 amp. Okay. And let's say for easy math, your fridge is running 100% of the time. Maybe you left the lid up. I don't know. Right. Let's say the fridge is running nonstop at 1 amp for easy math. If you have a battery in a JL, let's say we're running a JL with group 25 batteries and you're running the full throttle, that battery has about 63 amp hours of capacity. Okay. We said earlier, you don't want to drain it past about 50% is the general rule of thumb. You can, but at about 50%, your fridge is going to cut off. Okay. So 50% capacity of about, let's say 64 amp hours is roughly 32 amp hours. What does that mean? That means you can run a 1 amp circuit for about 32 hours until it's at 50% depth of discharge, right? Does that kind of make sense?
That makes sense.
Right?
Yep.
Now there's a little bit more that goes into it, but that's the easy way to think about it. Let's say you got rock lights around your vehicle and you want to leave those running as night lights for your campsite. You're out in the middle of the woods, it's dark, you want to leave a little bit of light on. Let's say those lights pull 2 amps. Okay. If you got a 2 amps draw, well, how long can you run that on about 32 amp hours of capacity? About 16 hours, right? 2 amps and you got 32 available. You got about 16 hours you can run those lights before that battery is at 50% discharged. Okay, so that's how you figure out how long your device is going to last. You take your how many available amp hours you have divided by how much you're using. And that'll give you how many hours that device will run.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And you obviously, you gave the example of just running a fridge. Now we were just calculating just that fridge. So
right.
If you have a lot of accessories, it's going to be a little bit more complicated, the more accessories that you add to calculate that. But
yeah, so all you would do is, that's exactly right. So all you would do is add those up. So we use the example of your fridge running nonstop at 1 amp and your camp lights running nonstop at 2 amps. So you're pulling 3 amps. And if you say my accessory battery has about 32 usable amp hours of capacity, divided by 3 amps is about 10 hours. 10 or 11 hours is how long you're going to be able to run all that before the battery is halfway discharged.
And that's only at 50%. You
50%
could go
depth of
further
discharge.
than that, but we don't recommend that.
Yeah, if your fridge cuts off at 11.8, then it's just going to cut off.
Right.
But LED lights will typically run the battery down even lower than that. They don't cut off at 11.5 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we were talking about AGM, but that's where lithium shines a little bit brighter. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But it can run 100%, voltage until it's just completely dead, and it can run all the way down to 0%.
That's right.
So it's going to be able to power that a lot longer, and they're typically a lot more amp hours than the AGMs anyway. So
that's right. That's one of the benefits of lithium is you've got more amp hours of capacity within the same physical footprint, and it's all usable. You can drain a lithium battery 100% down and then charge it all the way back up. And the Dakota lithium batteries that we sell, you can do that about 5,000 times, which is incredible.
that's insane.
Yeah, so you can drain that battery down every day for what's that, like 10 years? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you're only using it on the weekend, that battery should last you maybe your whole life.
Yeah, I mean, you might get 20 years out of that battery. It's pretty incredible. It's similar, a similar analogy is think about your cell phone. Now, cell phones and other small consumer electronics devices, just to be clear, they use lithium ion, which is a different type of battery than lithium iron phosphate in the Dakota lithium batteries. Okay. The Dakota lithium iron phosphate is inherently much, much safer. You hear about the little hoverboards in your remote control cars, catching on fire. Right. That's lithium ion. That's different. Okay. But just for an analogy's sake, if you're using your cell phone and you got the little percentage meter up there at the top, right? Your cell phone is down to 30%. You're still talking on the phone or you're watching videos and you're using the GPS. It drains on down to 2%. You're still looking up your maps and surfing your social media. And then when it hits 0, your phone shuts off, right? So lithium iron phosphate is similar. It'll put out a much more steady voltage output and then it's dead, right? So you get 100% of the capacity rather than the voltage tapering off as the capacity goes down.
Yeah, that's cool. So that wouldn't even trigger the fridge to shut off because
Right.
the voltage would always be the same.
Voltage is nice and steady all the way through the capacity, then bam, the battery's dead.
Yeah, which means obviously your fridge would just shut off whenever
That's right.
the battery's dead. So, well, that's good. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that I had. So thanks for playing that devil's advocate game with me. But we did get this comment on one of our videos. And I thought it was pretty funny because we have a lot of people, especially the Jeep people, that come up and talk about the start-stop system, the start-stop battery. So this comment fits perfectly with that. People that like the ESS system have angry grills and a dash full of ducks.
I don't know if I should laugh at that or stay away from that one. I don't know. But yeah, when we're out at the shows, people come by, especially Jeep Beach, where it's Jeep specific events. People come by and they see we do dual battery kits for the JL. They're like, "Ooh, does this thing get rid of that stupid little stop start battery?"
Yes.
They're like, "Yes, it does." They're like, "I'll take it."
Yeah.
A lot of people buy our dual battery system just to get rid of that battery. Yeah. But, some people don't realize there's actually people out there who like the stop start system. Can you believe that? It is a thing that exists.
Yeah. Yeah. Not me.
They are out there. For me, whenever the engine stops at a red light, it gives me terrible PTSD flashbacks to high school and my old crappy car that would just die at the intersection. And you don't just take your foot off the brake. You'd have to get out and push it through the intersection to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like to me when the engine stops. But there's people out there who like it, and so for those people, we have a couple of options. It's still really difficult to get to that stupid little stop-start battery that they bury underneath the fuse box.
Yeah, terrible place for it.
I don't know what Jeep was thinking.
I mean, I think they had to think oh, they're going to have to bring it in. And we'll change the battery for them. Therefore, we can make more money.
Yeah, with this easy $1,000.
Right.
Right?
We'll just bury it down where nobody can reach it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in order to be a car designer, you should have to be a mechanic for 5 years before you're allowed to design cars. But, so all batteries eventually die. So that little stop-start battery is gonna die, and you can either, rip out the inner fender liner and go in from the bottom, or take the whole fuse box out from the top. But you're gonna have to get to that battery, okay? So if you like the stop-start system and you want to keep that, that's fine. We have a solution for that too. We have the stock battery relocation kit that just moves that little battery up on top of the fuse box, just so it's easier to get to and easier to service. It's easier to charge, replace down the road in the future. All the wiring stays 100% stock. We don't change anything at all. It just makes it easier to service the batteries. And then for the guys who say, well, I like the stop-start system, but I really don't like the little motorcycle battery, and I don't like having to pay the dealership to change that. Why didn't they just put a full-size battery in there? Well, we have a solution for that too. So we have the stock battery replacement kit that replaces the little battery with a second full-size battery, right? And all the wiring stays 100% stock. There's no changes to the way the vehicle operates at all. It just uses a big battery to run the stop-start system, and then a big battery for the cranking battery.
Yeah, and it's good to have options for the people that, the couple people, I guess, in the world that do like that system.
Yeah,
I've seen want to keep it.
I've seen some of the comments on our YouTube videos about the replacement kit and the relocation kit, and they're like, why would anybody buy this? Nobody likes the ESS system. And I say, you might be surprised how many of those we ship.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the last thing, we had someone comment a question. So let's answer this one before we go.
Okay.
I think this person has, I believe they have a Gen 1 system of ours, but I think it works for all of our systems. But they say, if the batteries are charged, is the LED supposed to stay on even when the engine is off?
Okay, so yeah, so we can talk about that for the Gen 1 and the Gen 3 system. Okay, on the Gen 1 kit, we had the little Cole Hersey smart isolator right in the center of the lid there, and it had a little red LED light on top. So all that meant was when the batteries were connected, the red light would be on. When the batteries were isolated from each other, the light goes off. That's all. But we had a lot of comments about that. People would say, oh no, a red light, something must be wrong. What's wrong here? There's nothing wrong. It just means the batteries were connected. So with the engine off, the batteries stay connected together, and that gives you a little bit of extra runtime just until the batteries drop to about 12.7 volts. Then the system separates the batteries from each other to protect the cranking battery, and that little red light turns off to indicate that they're isolated. Okay, so if you just happen to, I was going to say, if you happen to walk by and notice it, but you probably don't have your hood up. But if you if you're working on the engine or whatever, and you notice that the little red light is on while the engine is off, all that's telling you is your batteries are still fully charged. They're still above 12.7. That's it. Once they drop down a little bit, the light turns off. When you see the light off, you know that your cranking battery is being protected from your aftermarket accessories. Now, on the Gen 2 kit, with the little blue controller in there, that one did not have a status LED. So unfortunately, on that kit, there wasn't any way to visually tell, except with the G-screen, the status of if they're connected or not. But on the Gen 3 system with the new boost button, the new switch there's a little green halo around that switch. Same functionality, batteries are connected, green light's on. Batteries are isolated, the green light turns off. Doesn't matter if the engine is running or not. Batteries are connected, lights on. Batteries disconnected, lights off. That's it.
Yeah. And if you're standing next to it, when it disconnects, you'll hear that audible click of them physically separating.
Yeah, it does make a click sound when it connects and when it disconnects. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But good choice on going from the red light to the green light.
Yeah, we haven't had any calls saying, oh no, there's a green light on. What's wrong? No, people don't say that, but yeah, they got so confused about the red light. Red light bad.
All right, well, that's all I got for us today.
Okay, cool, man. Well, thanks for watching. We don't run any kind of ads or sponsorships on our show here. So if you got value out of this, if you learned something, do us a favor. hit the like button, share this with a friend, drop a comment down below. Let us know what other questions you have. And check out our website for more information, genesisoffroad.com. Thanks for watching.